Welcome. 3 hours of broadcasting is happening, and of course in hour one we had open lines. We opened up with a can of worms of the death train, sponsored by none other than the Abominator, collaborating with the Mexican government, CIA, sponsored murder of Hispanic native males in Guatemala, a contrived crisis where they pre-hired people 6 months before because they knew the crisis was going to happen, advertising now proven in Nicaragua and Guatemala to say, come on down. Now, I believe in humanitarian refugees. These babies and mothers should not be crowded on death trains and falling underneath the train because they're going underneath the train or on top of the train. And if we have guest workers come to America, you firstly clear them to make sure they're not disease-ridden, that they're not criminals on the other side of the border with the proper stations, and check with their own governments, local authorities, etc. And then bring them across in a busload so they don't die in the damn desert. But the idea of just making a carte blanche, we're going to take all you in, even if you're a 17-year-old gang member of MS-13, or you're involved with some other horrendous crime, or you're not even from Central America, you're from Iran because you're planning on counter-attacking America when we finally go to war with Iran. And now Mr. Maliki, who's now turning sides and joining the Iranians and Syrians against us, along with the Russians. So Obama is, as the globalists want, they are already creating crisis and chaos. You know, it's like Vladimir Lenin said, I shall be busy about creating and supporting and organizing my enemies. That's what America does. We are the dragon nation. We are an evil bunch of reprobates that we do this, so that our CIA is killing people. And then how can Obama sleep at night when little mothers try to escape after we've killed their husband in native communities in Guatemala are escaping to America because the Mexican government allows them, which they previously wouldn't, to get on death trains. So we have little babies washing up on the shores of the Rio Grande River after they die, God knows where, on the train, from disease, from starvation, from dehydration, from just heat stroke. I mean, this is just sickening. It's just sickening what our government's doing. And when they get here, they get treated by medics. They get treated in a facility that's inadequate by medics that are not trained to deal with infectious disease. They're louse-infested, resistant multi-drug TB, put on commercial airliners or buses and say, no problem, don't worry. We're not going to decon the seats. We're not going to prevent them from coughing resistant TB all over you. We don't care about the public. In fact, we want plagues to spread. We want swine flu to come back because we know we tracked it back in 2009. It was actually a Baxter facility, a little village where employees were coming to work at the Baxter facility where they actually genetically engineered the swine flu, just south of Mexico City. So guess what? Our government's always about committing evil crap everywhere. And we don't care what form of chaos, whether we ally ourselves with Al-Qaeda or now ISIS. And that name, wasn't chosen blindly. It was chosen because it's a religious, demonic, satanic ceremony. So, John, what's the latest news now? Because we got... I don't know how Obama can sleep at night. He must be a soulless creature.
Well, I agree, Doctor, and thank you for having me on. I got private confirmation from a friend this morning that down in Guatemala, advertisements are being run on commercial television and on commercial radio, telling the parents of these children that if the children can get to the United States, that more than likely they'll be able to stay. Now, that shows complicity in somebody funding to pay for the commercials. Commercial television ads do cost money. Someone's spending money to put these ads on the air. Well, it might
be Edelman owns part of Las Vegas. It might be Buffett, because there's a triad of these guys, these billionaires. They've already made public statements on Forbes and elsewhere that they support the current situation. This is not a rational situation. Here's what I believe. And I'm not against immigration. I don't care if they add an extra 100 million people, but we need them. We don't want them to be criminals, and we want them to become Americans. And they have to speak at least one of the key languages of America, which is Hispanic or English primarily. Okay? And this idea that they're just going to dump in people from China or Iran or anywhere else in the world, just dump them in here, even if they're criminals, that doesn't create a valid society. It creates a mess. It creates a mess. And you don't even have a nation if you don't have a border. I don't understand this. We need to have an open culture where we can bring in as many people as want to work here, so we can get grand projects like Nawapa, just like the Hoover Dam project, or the Transcontinental Railway, or the Erie Canal, 376 miles, that transformed the nation into a powerhouse. But what I see right now that's not their purpose. Their purpose is to destroy the border, make border guards stand down, have them look at monitors, not stop people. They might be coyotes bringing drugs across the border, or illegals that are drug infested or disease infested, or they're just plain gang members. And I think that this whole thing is going to blow up in their face, because I think that they're overachievers, and these globalists are just pushing too damn hard. They figure now, before Obama's gone, they're going to do this.
Well, that appears to be the plan. They're moving forward with a plan to bring in tens of thousands of these children which have drug-resistant tuberculosis, scabies, forms of measles never seen in this country before, right. Other communicable diseases. West Africans are in the mix, West Africans who have been taught to speak English sufficiently to pass. And, of course, West Africa just happens to be where Ebola is coming from.
Right, the thing is,
along with Chinese alleged teenagers, they may or may not be teenagers, or Chinese males. And, of course, people from the Middle East, young men from the Middle East who, they could be 15, they could be 25, who knows. Right. It's quite a mix. And it presents a clear and present danger to public health, a clear and present danger to national security. It is not being dealt with properly. We have border agents getting sick from drug-resistant tuberculosis. We have border agents that we're in touch with are actively seeking to make a transfer to another federal agency so they don't lose their pension and can remain with federal employment.
Well, I got a simple solution to a lot of the problems Obama has amplified, because previous administrations, including Republicans under Bush, have made it. So instead of the Department of Defense, we're going to call it Department of Chaos. Instead of the Department of Education, we'll call the Department of Miseducation. Instead of the Department of Immigration, we're going to call the Department of Open Borders. Okay, come on down. Right. Doesn't matter if you're a criminal, if you're whatever. I mean, we're going to let you on in. Okay, even if you're disease-ridden. The thing is, they don't even treat them like human beings. They don't even treat them properly when they arrive here, which means they got to stay at least long enough to make sure we can make sure they don't have Ebola, make sure they don't carry a serious disease we haven't cleared them from it. Like, for example, let's say someone has TB. You can do an X-ray first, then you do a proper test called a Viome test to see if they have tuberculosis, like the Tyne test. You see, then you put them through proper treatment. And by the way, our treatments, which are natural, are far superior and faster than the stupid treatments that conventional doctors use against tuberculosis, which will make you sick as hell. And the problem is they're releasing them to the public where they're still coughing out tuberculin bacteria that are multi-drug resistant. That's only a couple illnesses. Then, of course, the spread of swine flu, which is new versions of it, new genetic recombinants. And so we have medics who are not trained and not certified and are inadequate. Then we have patients that are coming up. I call them patients because it's there. Young people, young mothers are traumatized. They're freaking out, and a lot of them are suicidal. They've come from death trains. Maybe they lost their baby on the way. They're arriving here in a state where they're suicidal as they are, and they're being released into communities. Then they go and they have to deal with the public where they're trying to dump them to places like Temecula, which is an upper end kind of. If you go to Temecula, it's like $1 million homes. Okay, what are you going to do? Dump all these people into a $1 million home area? So what they did is they had so much protest from the local people because they're organized and they're smart. I mean, it's like Silicon Valley South.
Right.
They ended up and dumping them down at a facility near Chula Vista, near the Mexican border. This isn't a way to treat human beings. Just like guest workers, they should send a bus down rather than having them die of starvation or heat stroke in the desert. And this idea of putting up just a fence, this is going to fix the problem, which Obama never did properly. You need a fence, plus you need a proper immigration policy. So if people want to apply to work, you go to a station, you get medically cleared, you get cleared to make sure you get proof that you haven't committed a crime, and then you can apply. Then you send a bus down so you can go pick fruit, put on roofs, do whatever. And when it's time for you to get a break and go back to your country in 2 or 3 months, you get a bus back down there, air-conditioned with proper meals, so you're treated like a human being. This is sickening the way we treat these people, and I am sick and tired of Obama, our entire administration's federal and state government. They're out to lunch. Welcome back. And now, John, now we've talked about the horrendousness of what's going on. And, Obama, we're going to pray for this man, because you see, when you pray for our enemies, our leaders are like Obama, which he is our leader, despite the fact he makes me nauseated. Same as George Bush, by the way. Like Gerald Celente, I'm a political agnostic. I think that all of these parties are two compartments of the snake party. And America's a snake. It's a dragon, And I saw a nation that looked like a lamb, but when it spoke with the voice of a dragon. That's America. It's the most evil nation that has ever existed on the face of the earth, other than its twin, which is the state of Israel, which is not Israel at all. It's the state of satanic, as Jesus would say, the synagogue of Satan. That's what the state of Israel is right now. Bombing the hell out of the Palestinians in their open-air prison of 5-6 million prisoners in Gaza. That's obscene. Dropping phosphorus bombs on little girls to strip the flesh off their bones, dropping bombs to blow up schools. They had one school for Down syndrome kids and the disabled, and 2 of the kids were blown up over the weekend, by the way. Is that a nice thing to do? I don't think so.
It's horrendous. No.
So, anybody who just blandly supports the state of Israel otherwise, there's a special place for you stoking the fires of Hades. It's not a good place. You're not going to get through the gates of heaven. It's not going to be pleasant. You need to smarten up. We need to actually have Israel repent. But the first thing we should do is annex the state of Israel and stop them the idea it's going to be a religious republic for just Jews. First off, most people in Israel aren't even original Torah Jews. They're not Jews at all. Either secular agnostics or these extreme ultra-Orthodox Jews are out of their mind and believe things that are completely against the Bible, the Torah, and the words of the Most High God and the prophets, ancient, minor, and major. It's just not right. And, they're Messianic Christians that are actually becoming Christians that came out of this, including out of Russia and elsewhere. I don't care what their genetics are. They could be Mongolian or Japanese. It wouldn't matter. But Christians are persecuted like crazy in Israel. You can be a neurosurgeon, and once you've got all your benefits as a neurosurgeon coming from Russia as an immigrant, you can't get a job sweeping in front of a cafe if you turn to become a Messianic believer. And I actually met a doctor who was a neurosurgeon in Russia, became a Messianic believer, and he couldn't get a job sweeping in front of a cafe. He was destitute. So when people want to get smart with me, I've been there, okay? I know the director of the Messianic Fellowship in Israel. And I can tell you, I'm sick and tired of people who try to say there isn't a truth. Yes, there is a truth. Yes, we need to be an open nation, like bring us your huddled and masses, like it says as a plaque on Ellis Island. Yeah, bring us your huddled masses. Bring us your workers that will build things like the Hoover Dam and the Transcontinental Railway. Bring us your people here in Southern California. If we didn't have the Hispanic people working their tail off, which they do, this place would fall apart. That's a fact. Hard-working people anywhere need to be able to work wherever the hell they want to work, as long as they're not criminals and they're decent people. And actually, number one, they're going to become decent Americans, which believe in the Constitution, which is based on Jesus Christ and God. That's what this nation was based on, the rights of the human beings. Our rights come from our Creator, not government. Government doesn't own us. We own government. And that's what the Constitution says. It's not like any other nation on earth. It's not like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, whatever. This is a unique nation. It's a republic, which is a godly republic, originally formed. It's being destroyed by the latest destroyer since John F. Kennedy, the latest destroyer, which is Obama, and the bankster maniacs behind him. So, and it's the same way with the healthcare system. It's an obscenity. Every system, the education system, everything is obscene. I feel like one of the ancient prophets walking into the court of Jeremiah, like Jeremiah in the court to tell the king off as to how much he screwed up the country. Obama, on a 15-day vacation, I don't know how a man sleeps. How can he sleep knowing that 72 hours these women are jumping from camps onto the underside of trains called death trains with their little baby strapped to them, hoping to get to America because they're told on the radio in Nicaragua or Guatemala they're going to make it. How can we sleep when we give Stinger missiles to ISIS that said already, we will send you Americans and Europeans to Allah to die because we will have Sharia law in Paris, where they have thousands of people protesting the insanity of Israel, justifiably, by the way, protesting it. But at the same time, once they get enough of them, they want Sharia law, which means they'll be beheading before Friday morning prayers. And if you don't agree with them, tough luck, man. You're done. Your government, your laws are null and void when you have Muslims in your country.
That's right. Well, they want the same thing in Detroit, Doctor. They want to have Sharia law as well. Exactly.
In Deerfield, Michigan. I was born in Detroit, and I can tell you, I have relatives still there. My 2 uncles were there, and they died some years ago, my father's brothers. But all of his sons and daughters and everybody lives up there, and they moved further and further away from what I call the black hole called Detroit. And what's going on, of course, is that these Muslims have taken over, and when they have their laws, they're extremely aggressive. Once they have even a large minority they act like we're taking over, man. They're like a gang. It's like, and most people don't realize only 14% of Islam has anything to do with religion or God. 86% is complete control of your life, from the food habits to how your commerce to how you treat your. I just read a report here recently from one of my people that sent me this report. It was so disgusting. It's a story from a. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Muslims versus all other religions. And I got to read this. This is Dr. Aray Eldad, an MD at Hadassah Hospital in Israel. And he was instrumental in establishing the Israeli National Skin Bank. And I'll jump through it. But basically, he had an Arab woman from Gaza who apparently was hospitalized in the Soroka Hospital in Beersheba. Because her family burned her because they assumed that she was having an affair. So they had to replace a lot of her skin. But her family wouldn't forgive her until she came back with a bomb vest on, went back to the hospital where they treated her and replaced her skin with the doctors from Israel, and blew it up and killed a lot of the doctors and nurses. Okay? That tells you what Islam is about.
Herself in the meantime.
And herself. And by the way, her family wouldn't forgive her until she blew herself up in these doctors.
Right.
Now that's Islam. Okay? So, and by the way, people say, well, no, there's moderate Islam. Well, moderate Islam should be like, I am a Christian, criticizing Christians to do crazy crap. Whether it's the crazy Pope or other sects of Christianity that do things that are totally non-Christian. Jesus would. He'd just call it what it is.
So I need to ask, Doctor, where are the prominent imams who criticize these suicide bombers, the female mutilation, the beheadings? Where are the prominent imams making criticism of that?
Right, it's pretty standard to do a castration where they remove the clitoris in all female African, Arab, Muslim females throughout Africa. That's why you got Boko Haram literally against Western education in every way, shape, or form. So they're killing Christians and even foreign educators or even non-Christians just because they're educating them. Excuse me? We should negotiate with these people? You can't negotiate with people who are psychotic maniacs, or people that support psychotic maniacs because they don't open a damn mouth when they should, to cut off the extreme elements within their so-called religion that are dangerous. I mean, do you think on a commercial airliner you need to worry about a latest Buddhist or a Baha'i blowing up an airliner? No. They're always Muslims, which is why they're the perfect boogeyman for the New World Order.
Well, Baha'is are a part of Islam, by the way.
Yeah, well, they're the quieter, more restricted version of it.
I'll tell you about that when we come back from the break.
Yeah, let's get into it. But as I say, any form of Islam is bad. So we should restrict immigration from them. But everybody else, come on down as long as you're not a criminal. Well, welcome back. And, John, you have an important story that I want to mention. And that's why I tell people we need an open... And again, here we talked about the solution to this immigration problem, but they're all integrated. It's why we don't have good energy policies. We have a policy. In fact, if you go to rents.com, you'll see a picture up there. And it shows you on rents... If you go to the front page of Rents today, it shows a really good art by Dees that shows a picture of water monopoly. And it's all these maniac bankers, Bechtel, Viola, Nestle, and other New World Order corporations pushing to control privatizations of the planet's water supply. At the same time, they're doing chemical hydrofracking. It's destroying the hell out of the water tables, not recharging the water tables of the Midwest with things like the North American Water Power Project, and using chemicals when there's no need for it. You can use all kinds of other technologies, steam technologies, to do fracking, and you can recharge the water table so the trees don't die and you can't grow crops and have a big giant dust bowl. So, John, you have a really important story about Baha'i, because this is one that I think people should take note. As I say, the universal rule is every other religion except satanic religions of any form whatsoever, high-level Masons. And by the way, in most Muslim countries, people should realize, and I said it before, there's more high-level Muslims in Islam than all other religions, including Christianity and Judaism, put together. Which tells you basically the people ruling Saudi Arabia and all these countries are Satanist wizards and high-level Masons, Satanists.
Well, Doctor, here's the story. First of all, Baha'i is a part of Islam. They're heavily persecuted by the other Islamic sects, but it is part of Islam. The story has to do with my wife going to a meeting of Baha'is in our hometown, St. Louis. These are all native-born Americans who had converted to the Baha'i religion as adults. So she goes to the meeting, and she comes back and reports to me that these are all such caring, loving people and such a caring, loving religion. And I said, okay, that's fine. And when she said if she wanted to go back, and I said, well, I think you should do that. And please ask 3 questions. First question, what is the ultimate goal of the Baha'i religion? Second question, how do you intend to achieve that goal? And the third question, well, what will you do with those who won't go along with the program? So thank goodness they did answer all 3 questions. They answered honestly in compliance with the basic beliefs of the Baha'i religion. So the answer to the first question is to convert everybody in the world to Baha'i religion. The answer to the second question is to do it by peaceful, loving, caring methods. And the answer to the third question is anybody who won't convert with peaceful, loving, caring methods, they will murder them.
Whoa.
And Doctor, I need to stress once again, these are not people from Yemen or Saudi Arabia or Egypt. These are native-born Americans, men and women who have advanced degrees, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years past a high school education, that had voluntarily converted to the Baha'i faith as adults.
Wow.
And Baha'i is known to be, among people who study such matters, the Baha'is are known to be the most peaceful part of Islam compared to all the others, and of course Baha'i is the smallest part of Islam that I know of.
Right.
So that's the kind of danger that we're facing. That's the kind of insanity and psychosis we're facing, that people can look at you with a straight face and make such declarations.
See, that's what the problem is, and of course we know that Obama gets it. He knows this. He was raised in a madrasa in Malaysia. He's a Muslim, okay? But right now he's a secular agnostic Satanist. He's a 32nd degree level Mason. People should know that about Obama. You don't get anywhere in politics unless you're a high-level Mason and you also have some form of dissociative identity disorder and or multiple personalities so you can be avatared or controlled. Basically, you got to be a multiple personality prostitute. So one of his personalities is doing whatever he's told to do in front of those teleprompters where it's pre-read, and he doesn't make any decisions. He's just there to be the punching bag for the New World Order, for whatever's going on, because he's going to whip off for 15 days while these babies are washing up on the shore of the Rio Grande River, while America's falling apart, while they keep on fiddling with the statistics to say you're not unemployed. If you're no longer employed, you're just not getting benefits. So the real unemployment rate is 24%, not 6.7%.
Right.
The real situation is we got 97 million Americans working and the rest aren't. So we got 114 million people that are of adult age that could be working that aren't. This is not normal. And then we're dumping all these people into the country without jobs. Now, of course, you could start giant work projects like NWAPA and others to rebuild the infrastructure, but we don't see that leadership. They do in China, even though they're poisoning the heck out of their country. What I see is America is purposely being set up by these false proxy leaders that have got into our government by billionaires like George Soros to tear the country apart. We're sitting on the largest supply of oil in the world, largest supply of minerals, the largest gold mine in the world is in Alaska, the largest supply of oil in the world, not only all across America, not even including Alaska or the Prudhoe Bay or the Liberty Rig. When that comes online later this year, we got so damn much oil, we have more than the Middle East by hundreds of times. Even when we tap into, for example, the oil tar sands up in Alberta, do you know how much oil there is there? There's 100 times more oil there than all the world's oil preserves put together, just there in that one tar sand. So it doesn't even include Turner Valley or Prudhoe Bay or any of these other areas. That's just in Alberta. It's ridiculous that we have any problems at all, of any kind. So we'll get John back, and we lost our connection there, so we'll reconnect. I want to hear your comments on this because it's important, and the same thing goes on in our healthcare system. They throw us the Unaffordable Care Act, which is useless. You get giant copays. After 6 months, which is zero interest, you get hit with 15, 16, 17, 18%. If you don't pay it, don't worry. They're not going to hit you with fines. They're not going to put you in jail. They're just going to take away your deductible. So if you're already poor enough that you can't afford regular insurance and you don't have insurance, they're going to take away your refund, and they're going to stick it in the pocket of the IRS. That's why they try to hire 16,000 agents. Now they don't even have enough people because the Congress has cut their budget to be able to even enforce this stuff. This is crazy. The way we run our government is so obscene. And then, of course, we have Obama who's frustrated he's not king. I'm not king, so I'm having a tantrum. I'm going to go and Call up the Mexican government. We got John back. We have Obama having a tantrum. I didn't get my immigration bill I wanted. I didn't have my DREAM Act, so I'm going to do this stuff with the Mexicans, the Guatemalans, the Nicaraguans, etc. It's crazy. This man needs to be arrested, not just impeached, arrested. Same with Eric Holder. Why doesn't somebody arrest these guys? Citizens arrest. Special forces around these guys. Arrest them. Put them before a proper tribunal in a court. Bring forth evidence. It's crazy. And there's no, and saying if Obama gets any further, what he'll do is if it looks like he could lose power, they're going to have something like a nuke go off in the city, or a major plague, or a real, government-created, space-based weapons design natural disaster, so they can really seize more power by closing off the internet, shutting down networks like Genesis, making sure people like me and John just disappear. So if you don't hear from us, you can assume that Obama's taking us out. Okay? So that's the facts. What do you think, John? John, are you there? I can't hear John. So I heard he's back, but I cannot hear John. Yeah, John, are you there? Okay. Well, we are having technical difficulties, but we are still live broadcasting, and soon John will... I assume he is still in space and time, but our audio connection is not working properly. So hopefully, Randy, we can get that fixed at our board op here at Genesis Network. I'm going to pull up some of the latest news here. Protesters in Germany, Jews are beasts. These are protests in Germany going on. So it's all across Europe that they're just getting totally sick of what's going on. And it's not good for Jews either. I mean, I don't want to see racism spiked all over the world where they just go after Jews like the Second World War. I don't want to see people being treated like pariahs. But, of course, this is part of the game. This is part of the game. So when we come back, we'll hopefully have John back, and we'll have his response. Your calls, too, are welcome, 800-259-5791. So the death train to the Rio Grande River, to the washing up on the shores. I hope and pray for you, Obama, that you repent publicly for the horrendous thing you've done. And the latest reports are, if I was to, I'm not being a negative person, but I believe in solutions. I'm an optimist. That's why, because I'm a believer. Our God is God. Just like the ancient Israelites, when they get the false report, remember, just a couple of days ago was the 9th of Av. And the 9th of Av, by the way, was a date of where the bad report was given about how there are giants in the land and how you couldn't possibly go there, where God said, you're going to go there. And it was only Joshua and Caleb who came back with a positive report and said, hey, well, we can do this. And, of course, that's why Joshua took over from Moses. And, by the way, what happened is all the adults who were grumbling and complaining that they weren't going to be able to make it, they were sent out in the desert for a period of 40 years, and every one of the adults didn't make it. It was only their children that entered the promised land. So we have the same situation. 9th of Av, the temple was destroyed the first and second time on that same date. And here it is, just a few days ago, we have these reports coming out about Ebola, about all these plagues. Now we have this immigration disaster. America's under the judgment. The only things that are going to be modified now are how serious the judgment's going to be, how intense it's going to be, and who is going to make it and who's not going to make it, not just physically but spiritually. Not only physically dying, but going into the lake of fire, because there is fire. Okay, this is, we're not taking the fire out of hell. Separation from the Creator creates eternal fire. So, John, Ebola stalks, we've got H7N9, we've got resistant multi-drug tuberculosis, we have chikungunya, we've got so many diseases now that are spreading, and Lyme disease, and the pinhead doctors try to complain that they can't diagnose it. Well, I can. I can give them specific immunological tests, and I don't care if they're an infectious disease professor. I'll tell them what labs to do and what tests to do and where to do it to prove they don't know what they're talking about. But guess what? When you challenge one of these pinheads, either whether it's in government, the FBI and CDC director in March of 2001, 4 years after I worked with Dr. John Hughes, a reserve admiral on Operation Tarpa and Dark Winter, when I told him about the fact we ultimately failed in all our tests for stopping plagues, because I worked on Operation Top Off and Dark Winter, they laughed. I couldn't believe it. I was shaking inside thinking, oh my gosh, these evil bastards are laughing.
They laugh because they expected the outcome that you got.
Right, and they're laughing because we did a simulation on 2nd Avenue, downtown Denver. We had a sprayer out the second floor window, trying to pretend that we had a weaponized form of a super plague. Then we had another simulation in the Performing Arts Center, and what we did is we had hazmat workers and infectious disease people who were supposed to go to the local hospitals, St. Joe's and Presbyterian, St. Luke's, etc., and Lutheran. And then the emergency department staff, infectious disease, were supposed to back calculate out what happened, whether it's a plague release or a radiological weapon, to contain them, to quarantine them, to treat them, and to find out and track their contacts to make sure it didn't spread and kill a whole lot of other people. Guess what? We didn't get a score of 1 out of 100. We killed everyone, and the plague spread with wildfire. We did a simulation on the NOAA computer up in Boulder. We bought computer time and did a simulation of a weaponized form of super plague. And what happened is that we calculated out with a number of real-life parameters, and we call this nonlinear programming, that it would spread to 93 million people and every state in the United States and 90 countries in 90 days.
Yep.
Because we can't do anything. Right.
That's right.
And by the way, there's simple measures we can do. I measured a half a dozen measures at that meeting with the infectious disease and the CDC director and the FBI director for bioterrorism. Personally, the national directors, I met with them for lunch, and the hair in the back of my neck stood up, and I told them things, and they looked at me like I was from outer space when I gave them valid suggestions on what to do, like putting HEPA filters in the airliners, clearing the airliners with ozone or ionic silver, doing specific things of chain of custody, proper quarantine tests for people coming in from dangerous countries like countries carrying Ebola. And they looked at me like I was from Mars.
Right. They'd never been briefed on these things previously, it sounds like.
Oh, no, they were briefed. You can tell these people were basically, they're just doing their job. I mean, these people kind of almost gloried in the fact that they were incompetent. And as I said, on an odd day, I couldn't tell whether they were just stupid or evil, or a combination thereof.
Right.
I couldn't really tell, because I looked at them and was like, I'm not even speaking their language, just like, this is really simple stuff, guys. But they didn't get it. And so when you see things like this happening again, remember, we're not properly quarantining these young people and people coming with diseases from Central and South America, so what do we think is going to happen?
Well, that's very predictable and very knowable, isn't it?
Right. So do you want to have an explosion of swine flu, resistant TB? And by the way, when you get some of these people bringing diseases, they also can transfer them back into infectious biting insects, etc. And they can do that. In fact, they're doing a study I just recently read where they have one guy volunteering who got bad Lyme disease in 2007, and he's actually volunteered to have Lyme parasites, the ticks, bite him, so we can see if the people that are infected with Lyme can actually now infect the parasites. Guess what? Of course they can. They grow in the parasite in their guts, in their bloodstream. And you have a bug bite you, it's going to carry a partial blood meal. What do you think's going to happen?
Right.
Are you a moron out there? I mean, what do you think? Get a partial blood meal from an insect, a tick, a flea, any biting insect that gets a partial blood meal is going to spread to the next person. All it has to be is an inoculum or a sufficient amount of organisms and a weakened immune system, and the person says, voila, you have Hep C or Ebola or God knows what the heck it is.
Right.
It doesn't require
a perfect cocktail mix of nightmare to me.
Well, I mean, it's all by design. I mean, and I say, people say, well, you're just negative, Deagle. I say, no, I'm a realist. So you want somebody like me who can keep their cool and drink peach juice after the emergency, and I pull a piece of plate glass out of your chest, stick a chest tube in, kind of suture your eyelid back, try to put a bandage over the place where your brain is sticking out of your head and get you up to neurosurgery and thoracic surgery so you don't die on the table in the emergency department and bleed out. So you want somebody like me who actually faces reality when I was working in trauma or burn unit and not an idiot who would just kind of say, well, I can't do anything with this. This is too complicated and too terminal. Right. You have to face reality. And the problem is, I don't see this as, and same thing I think as Christians, we need to be clear-headed, ready for action, and willing to do it because our God is God. We need to stop trying to play games. The same with the medical system. We got a medical system that's disgusting, and it's ripping doctors apart now. Of course, a lot of them, even if they moved the goalposts and said, well, we'll give them the toxic drugs even though it's killing some people, now they're basically saying, well, we're not even going to give them the drugs. We're just going to put them to memory care. I mean...
That's it. That's all they're going to do.
Yeah, memory care, so they make videos of you as you die, you know.
Right.
Jeez.
Right.
And that's Obama. It's like, ugh. And then people want to defend Obama. I said, well, he'd make a great night ghoulish, you know. This is Obama. He just needs to learn the Pennsylvanian accent and grow like pointy ears and wear a high-collared vest and have a good late-night show. Because that's what he is. He's ghoulish. When he says, I'm really good at killing people on Saturday morning Tuesday morning in the Situation Room, we've got a twisted man there's something really missing. That's why he's easily manipulated by the globalists, because he's collaborating with them. He's working lockstep with them. He's not just a puppet on strings. He's an evil puppet.
I agree. Absolutely.
Evil puppet. Ooh, makes your skin crawl. It's like, oh gosh. And if you think he's bad, if Hillary, I call her Hitler, gets in, she's the most evil person I've ever met in my entire 62 and a half years. It was like meeting
meet her in person.
I met her in person for a couple of hours at the Dakota Ridge High School with Bill Clinton, because I took care of the first kid shot in Columbine, and we spent several hours together. It was like the event horizon of evil for the darkest place of the ninth ring of Hades.
Really?
He was liquid evil of the most evil person that ever lived inside that 5 foot whatever diminutive female with a dark star look on her face and a cold hand that felt like you're touching death itself.
Really?
Yeah.
That's scary.
It was scary. And I've worked in trauma and burn units, and people, whip out machetes and shotguns in the emergency department and razor blades. She was 1,000 times scarier, and she had no weapon in her hand.
Right. Well, and she stands a good chance of being the Democratic nominee, doesn't she?
I don't know how she's not going to be, unless she has a heart attack or stroke or something catastrophic happens to her. I don't see anybody else standing up to be the Democratic candidate. It'll be whoever the
candidate other than her for the Democrats.
Whoever the Republican is versus the Hitlery rotten Clinton. By the way, we pray for this woman. I had a vision of her as a little girl being forced by her parents to see ritual human sacrifice and sex magic rituals. That's why this person we call Hillary Clinton is another DID. A multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, very smart, incredibly evil person.
Well, thank you, Doctor. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, well, it's a wake-up call. America is under judgment. It's only a matter of do we modify who's going to suffer, how long it'll be, and how intense. Pray for America.